Hey folks, Nick and Mark here from the Roll Call Room. We are excited. Manscaped.com is our major sponsor. Go to manscaped.com, use code ROLLCALLROOM, and get 20% off. Father's Day is coming up. The Performance Package 4.0 is what they sent us. It's on sale right now. Use the promo code, get that 20% off. Look at all the stuff that you get in the Performance Package 4.0. There's some really, really good stuff. You can see how excited Mark is. I'm excited. More importantly, your balls will thank you.
The issues discussed on the Roll Call Room podcast do not reflect the opinions of any specific agency. Any characters discussed on this show may be fictional for comedic value unless you're a shitbag Steve. This podcast is rated explicit and listener discretion is advised.
Most of the time, we don't have someone there to keep us in line, to make us do push-ups and give us a good, swift kick in the ass when we slack off. What we have to do is we have to be our own sergeant, to hold the highest standards and allow no slack.
Your problem is you start something, you stop it. You start something, you stop it. You feel good, you do it. You don't feel good, you quit. People who do stuff consistently and on time, they surpass people who talented and gifted.
All men are created equal. Some just work harder.
And the problem with some of y'all is you want somebody else to support your dream. It's yours. I don't owe you a dime. It's your dream. If you want it to happen, get your butt up and make it happen. If you want it to happen, rise and grind. If you want it to happen, you're going to have to do what I do, and that's get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And you're going to have to act like you got all the energy in the world. Why? Because this is my time. This is my moment. Tomorrow. Ain't no such thing as tomorrow. We only got today.
Every decision you make, the decisions you make on Monday, the decisions you make on Tuesday, the decisions you make on Wednesday, if you decide to hit the snooze button, what you're doing is you 10 minutes away from your goal now. You just went backwards. So whatever your goals are, whatever your dreams are, whatever your destiny is, your decisions have to be in alignment with them. Now, if you want to be broke for the rest of your life, keep doing what you're doing. But if you want something different in life, you got to do something different.
You gotta go all in. And mental toughness says, not only do I climb that doggone mountain, I enjoy climbing the mountain. I get a kick out the mountain. I get a kick out the weights. I get a kick out of going up against the number one team. I get a kick out of fatigue. I get a kick out of the grind. I get a kick out of it.
When you want to become a diamond, your whole attitude change, your whole mindset, your thinking, your relationships, the decisions that you make, how you spend your time, your energy, all of it changes. See, this is something that you can't be in this business. This business has to be in you.
You take advantage of this opportunity. You let everything else go. You eat different. You study different. You practice different.
It's one thing to talk about your destiny. It's one thing to dream about your destiny. But it's another thing to wake up when you know you're supposed to wake up, to say no to that party, saying no to quitting when you still got 100 more shots to make, saying no when your body's saying stop, but you put in 50 more push-ups. You can't just talk about it, you gotta be about it.
Yup, it's tough, it's hard. I'm not telling you it's gonna be easy to sacrifice. I'm not telling you it's gonna be easy to grind. I'm not telling you it's going to be easy, but I can tell you this, it will be worth the sacrifice if you can grind your way through it.
You're listening to the podcast that changed the game and rocked an entire profession. Talking about shit in law enforcement that keeps poor leaders up at night. When others run scared and hide behind fake policies, the Roll Call Room podcast tells it like it is. No bullshit. No matter how hard these thieves try, we keep killing it. And now, here are your hosts, Nick and Mark.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Roll Call Room. I am your host, Nick, with my co-host, Mark. How are you doing, buddy?
My brother, I am doing well. I had a long day today, but you know, the energy level here at the Mark the Cop House is fairly high. Taught all day at the academy today, so yeah, I'm ready to go. Not that I haven't been talking for 8 hours straight, so
warping young minds. Young minds.
That's not necessarily trying to get them lined up for the proper thing. So, doing the right thing is what I like to preach.
Well, we're going to get into our main topic for the episode, but I feel it's necessary to talk about season 6, episode 1.
Oh wow, what a dynamite episode!
It was, man, and I think it ruffled a couple of feathers, mostly International Police Chiefs Organization people, FBI. I looked on my LinkedIn and I had a whole bunch of people looking my LinkedIn up. You all know that, the Blue Falcons out there, that it tells me
who are these guys.
It tells me when you're looking at my LinkedIn, right? Like, you know that, right? Like, that's not a secret. Okay.
Right,
because
right. I can see who's looking me up.
Yeah, it's so weird that when they do it, especially when they're from my old agency, that always makes me laugh. Because I'm like, what do you need to? It's been 3 years. What do you need to see what I'm doing? Do you want to see where I'm working? Do you want to come over?
Isn't it amazing how things like that, people like that, you tend to live in their head rent free, and it's kind of like, dude, you got much better things to do besides worry about a former employee. And the way we went out the door, is there some bitterness there? Yeah, yesterday's coffee. However, I've moved past that. I mean, does things still creep in and aggravate me? Sure, it does, but it doesn't dominate my life anymore. And I really think that when we talked a while ago, you had really made a statement that really rang true with me, which was, I'm not angry anymore. And you're able to deal with things and move things in a positive way. And I think that, you and I have started this, not started, but, we're doing this podcast together now, not mad, because I was mad for a long time. I was a cop for a very long time. And another statement that you made was, I was born to be a cop in this era. And I think that's so true. But, with these guys that are looking us up on social media, they want to drop their smart ass remarks here and there. What does that mean? That means what cowards do, instead of calling you up directly saying, hey, man, I think you're out of line on that comment. And I open that. I'm openly embracing of that. But what cowards would do is they always go through the back door, and they always want to do empty threats. So, I'm not above reproach. I like what Captain Higgins, remember him from down south in Louisiana? He's now Congressman Higgins. I like when he called out the gremlins in that video. One thing about it, man, I'm easy to find if you want to come take me on. Yeah. We wouldn't be doing this podcast had leadership or managers be doing their job. Would you agree with that?
No, I do agree with it. And I think, you made a very good point. I mean, 3 years ago when I first left, people looking up my LinkedIn or going on Facebook or whatever would kind of set me off. Mm-hmm. Now I get a chuckle out of it because I'm still occupying headspace after 3 years. You're still, it's obvious that you're miserable where you are. And I think with those folks that do that with you and I and other people, like I talked to Trent from Two Fired Cops and stuff like that. I think they don't like seeing you do better. They don't like seeing you in a better headspace. And it's so weird because when you first get on and you're in it, it's about this brother and sisterhood, and it's like, we're blood in, blood out kind of bullshit, and this thin blue line thing, and circle jerk in the locker room. Oh, that was just my part.
Yeah, maybe it was yours. Yeah, that never happened to my agency, but either one none of the three I've been involved in do we do any of this.
The starfish.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny because like once you leave, all that stuff is like, none of that matters anymore. And it's
it really doesn't.
Funny. And I think it's the episode 1 really struck a chord because we talked about a police chief national organization, and everybody knows which one we're talking about. I tagged them in a Twitter post. So no response yet. And here's the thing is those of you that are listening from that organization, here is an open invitation for you to come on.
Oh, yes.
And I'll give you 15 minutes to say whatever you want. 15 minutes. And then the other 45 minutes I get to ask you whatever I want. And that's and this invitation has been extended to my former chief, and if you want to extend it to anybody from your former agency, by all means go ahead. But I welcome a sit-down conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
We can do it remotely. We can do it in person.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't, because like Travis Yates writes about in his book, Cowardly Leaders, is that they do this from a distance. They do it behind a keyboard. They do this vindictive thing where they're
I'm sorry. No, I mean, you mean the Courageous Police Leader, that book you talking about, Cowardly Leaders. Travis Yates' book, The Courageous Police Leader. Get out and get it. It's on Amazon. I highly recommend it. And if you want, I'll sign one and send it to you. I'm joking.
Yeah. and those of you
it's
that
a great
are checking,
book. It's Mark the Cop. Mark the Cop recommended it. It's
approved.
A great book.
RCR approved.
RCR approved.
And I will tell you
you got
those of you
ass behind you, Nick.
I do. Those of you that are watching on video on our YouTube channel, the video will be right in between Mark and I, so you can get a picture of the book. So you buy the right book on Amazon, or reach out to Travis. Travis will sign one for you. But that leads me to the other thing is that we're now on YouTube. The tremendous response from episode 1, the video. I think a lot of you out there, if you're not driving, you're kind of like me. A lot of my favorite podcasts, I like to watch them on YouTube because I like to see. Yeah, I like to see the facial expressions, and you and I are so ugly. That's all we're really.
I'm ugly, but I'm really tan, motherfucker. That's what living in Florida gets you.
You do, buddy. You do, man. You do. But I will say
your cat. I'm sorry, Nick. I'm totally distracted. Your cat's showing me his balls right over your shoulder.
Yeah, well, she doesn't have any balls.
Catty vajay. Okay, whatever that is hanging down there is distracting me.
And the only way you're going to be able to know what we're talking about is you're going to have to go on YouTube and actually watch this video.
She's having a good time back there.
She really is. This is my normal life when I'm having meetings, virtual meetings. This is just shit I got to deal with. I got high-powered corporate people on calls, and my cat comes up behind me every time. So
I have to play the Aristocats theme for you. That'll be our new intro,
man. Jesus. So it was very interesting. The first episode, I think we touched on quite a bit of stuff, and we're doing these systematically and strategically, the way that we're releasing them and the topics that we're talking about, because we want you folks that are still on the job to kind of know that we're with you, we understand, and we're your voice. Because you really can't say very much. You really don't have a First Amendment right when you're wearing that badge.
That's right. And this Best Practices Act that we'll just go right back to the hive mentality. Why do we have a Best Practices Act? Have you ever noticed that some of the most successful and happiest cops is when they're putting on social media them in your uniform and, hey, I'm a happy cop and I'm out doing my job every day. And we were at that point, and then suddenly one day it changed. We use Lexapol in my former agency, and we got this notice, you have a policy update. And I'm reading that. It's like no image or nothing. You can't display anything bearing the patch, the badge, the this, the that, anything, even the letters in a row, you can't do that with. I'm like, why would you do that? Yeah. I'm a public official. Do you agree with that? You are a public official. Why can't, and you can walk right up in front of your police department as John Q. Citizen and do a video interview, right? You can stand outside with them in the background. You can look it up on the internet and use that logo because it's in the public realm. Why can't, or what is the need? Why is this best practices that a happy cop not go out and celebrate how proud they are of their accomplishment or how proud they are to be out in that job and doing that job? I just always thought that was so stupid.
Well, and it's interesting because you just did a segue without even knowing about it, which is today's topic, which is recruiting.
Oh, shit.
The biggest recruitment tool is the people that are already on the job. Like when I was happy at my department,
right,
man, I recruited every person that I could. There's people that don't even know this, but the original co-host of this show, Mike, the original Mike, was making a delivery to my house with another. He was working for this company, and he was delivering something to my house.
No kidding.
And and him and I struck up a conversation, and he's like, "I've always wanted to be a cop," and I'm like, "Come out for a ride along." And
the best thing to do. That's absolutely the best thing. Come on out.
And I mentored him and he got hired.
You use the M word. You what?
I know. It's a dirty word, man. It's a fucking dirty word. But I mean, would you agree or disagree that the majority of time, like, let me put it this way, Mark, if I came to you and I was an aspiring youngling, a duckling, and I came to you like the original Mike from this show came to me, and I said to you, "Hey, Mark, it's always been a passion of mine to get into law enforcement. What do you think? Should I get into law enforcement?" What would your honest opinion be if that was the case?
When I still was in love with my job, and that was 2 years prior to me leaving, I would have said, "Oh, it's the best fucking job in the world." Because let me tell you something: people that know me and knew me, I ate, slept, and shit being a cop. There was no doubt. I mean, that was my persona. And it wasn't, I wasn't the guy that wore the tactical shirts or the SIG Arms shirt out, kind of like the fireman. I was always pro police, and I still am, but I was pro recruitment and always telling people, how do you do this? And I was never recruited. I sat home and said, I want to do this. How do I do this? Because, a lot of the officers came into my father's restaurant, and they're like, hey, man, because I started asking them questions, and they said exactly what you did for Mike, Nick. He said, come out for a ride along, man. See what we're doing, man. You'd have a good time. You'd make a good cop, they told me. And it was the guys from the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department. And I'm friends with many of them today. There's a great agency to work for. They have a strong leader as a sheriff. I'm going to tell you that way. And I respect the hell out of him. But no one recruited me into it. And what I would say to them is, hell yeah, it's a great profession. But today, I still think it's a great, noble profession. And I appreciate each and every one of you that want to go out there and do it, because right now is really a tough time. But I think what I feel a duty right now to act is to get the right people on the job and to have the right leadership in there and to be able to ferret out. How do you know when you're working for a bad leader? How do you recognize these things? I think those are conversations we can have in up and coming shows, but for this one here, I don't know if I'm being really polarized in my answer or I'm being contradictory. So there's a big word for you, in my answer. But, I was at a family gathering over the weekend. I have a cousin, shout out to Pearland, Texas, positive shout out. He's a sergeant down there, and and him and I were having adult beverages, and I said, today, if your child came to you and said, hey, Dad, I want to be the police, what would your reaction be? And what would your reaction be, Nick? I'll just go ahead and start that. If your child came to you and said, Dad, I want to do this. I think I want to do this.
Well, it's just interesting that you say that, Mark, because my oldest daughter did that.
Oh.
And it was towards the end of my law enforcement career.
Okay.
And I gave her the same piece of advice, which is, I won't stop you from doing it. But what I will tell you is that the trade-offs, the pros don't outweigh the cons. The sacrifices that you make for this job don't outweigh, the pay, the benefits, the things that you don't calculate, like your mental health and things like that. These are things that I never, ever thought about when I first got on.
Oh,
but
no,
I
me
did
neither.
tell her, I did tell her, one, absolutely not at my old agency. I would never.
Don't walk in that joint.
Yeah. Well, they wouldn't have taken her anyway, but
right.
I had said to her, do your research, because that's what I wish that I would have done. Really quick side story is when I was originally from New York City. So when I applied for this job here in Virginia, I traveled back and forth for each part of my process.
Oh, wow.
And then they gave me my offer. They gave me my offer, and I moved from New York down to here, and I had like 3 months before the academy started. So I needed to find a job. And I found a job working like in loss prevention for 3 months. It was an easy job. It was good money. And every time I would catch somebody like stealing or something, the police would come to the store, but it wasn't my jurisdiction. It wasn't the department that I was going to go work at. It was the one next to it.
Okay.
And I would strike up a conversation with them, and I would say, hey, I'm going to the police academy in January for Alexandria City. And they would look at me and they would go, why? And I'm like, what? And they're like, that's the worst fucking department in Northern Virginia. Like, it's the worst. It's terrible. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, the prosecution there is terrible. The leadership there is terrible. The department's very cliquey. And like, I didn't grasp that concept when I was working at Sports Authority and loss prevention,
Where was the robot from Lost in Space? Danger, Will Robinson.
Yeah, it was bad. Like, then when I got on, I started to like slowly realize, and I want to say probably around the 5-year mark is, I think, when you start to really decide whether or not you want to stay vested in a place, or do you want to leave,
move on.
And that was right around my time. Like, I did a ride along at another jurisdiction, and I did this ride along, and the ride along rubbed me the wrong way. Like, there wasn't a team atmosphere like I was used to. So I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna stick it out. I've been here for 5 years. I'm gonna put in for sergeant, I think, because at that point I had over 10 years of law enforcement experience, even though I had only been in that department for 5 years.
Yeah.
But I think when you're looking at things now, if you're thinking about going into this profession, and I say this, Mark, and I think you could agree with me, is that I want to say probably about 80 to 90% of the applicants that are putting in for law enforcement now, this isn't the job that they desired from the time that they were children. This is strictly, I need a fucking job.
Right. And they got good benefits and they pay really well.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder there.
No. It's a, so, I mean, I think the majority, and it touches on what you spoke about, is getting the right people in for recruitment. And you can see how desperate agencies are, because they're doing these recruiting events, and a lot of them don't fucking make any sense. Like, like they're doing recruiting events at, like fucking Clown College, or, like this, they're not.
Take off the wigs and put on the badge. Oh, wait a minute. That's some administrators, but.
Yeah. My favorite are the ones that do like a recruiting event inside of a mall.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah. Why aren't you going?
What kind of applicants do you think you're getting?
Well, I think what a lot of agencies have got away from is like the Explorer program. Because, I know a lot of guys that I work with right now, hell, I was a police explorer. Yeah, I wanted to do this. This is something you want to, I was, and I love what you said there. I was born to do this job. I was born because I don't want to say I was born to do it, but it was a
calling.
Yeah, a calling of service. I wanted to be in the military. My dad talked me out of it. So the next thing was, civilian. So let's go into the police roles. And I didn't realize how many of my family were that have my last name that are actually police officers out west. And I'm very proud of my distant cousin. He does a great job down there. He's just a really accomplished officer. And, I'm very proud that of the job that he does and the other people that choose this profession to get out there. I have a small recruit class right now that I'm teaching, but, I told them guys, every one of you is going to have a job at the end of this process. And I can remember back in the 90s, me and a friend went to a test. One of the cities here in my county they were hiring one officer. 260 applicants showed up for one job. And I was pretty happy with myself. I placed like 68th. But I wasn't going to get the job. But you don't have that anymore. And like when I got my job at my city, a bunch showed up and they did the physical, but majority of them got weeded out. I conditioned for 6 months for that job because I wanted to work there that bad. Every day I was up, I ran a mile and a half. I ate like a bird. I was down to 215 pounds, so I aced the test. And so I went on to the written. Of course, I aced that, and the rest is history. But no one recruited me. And kind of what I'm seeing now is that some of these like, oh, yeah, let's give it a try. So the agency spends a lot of money on them. They put them through the academy, and then they start them on what shift? Generally evenings or midnights. And these guys that were used to working at like GameStop or whatever else, Monday through Friday, work some weekends, and now you're in this job and you're like, fuck this sucks. So they quit, so then you start right back all over again. This is something you want to do. This is a job you got to want to do. And it's something you're passionate about, the discipline that you got into, and you were damn good at it. Right. It's like you said, you sit around your off time thinking about what's some cool shit that I can get people motivated to do. And like with me, what's some things that we can do to make things better in our city?
Yeah. And I want to say, I don't think that that's happening now. Like even recruitment, like when you said that about getting physically fit ready, like I didn't always look like this chiseled body right now.
Me neither.
I remember one of the requirements for my old agency was 20% body fat. And I was like, not 20%. And I was going every day, 7 days a week to the gym. Right. And I was sweating it out, man. I was going to the sauna after working out. And I remember going to the physical for the department, and I came in at like 15.9%. That's how drastic. I mean, I started at like almost 30% body fat, and I worked my ass off for it, man.
Yeah.
And now I see the pictures, like not just my old agency, but big departments, Chicago, New York, and all these other departments. Man, they are not putting asses in seats for tests anymore. And the age,
not at all.
Like,
right.
A lot of these departments are celebrating that they're hiring recruits that are over 40 years old.
Yeah.
Kudos to you. But I'm going to tell you right now, that is a horrible fucking decision. That is a horrible recruitment idea. Whoever started to think of that, and they said, you know what? Let's tap into our middle-aged group.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not smart. That's not smart.
But I'm going to call you there. I don't say middle-aged, but I think that late 20s, early 30s is a group that really is not being solicited. Now, 45 and older, let me tell you something, boys and girls, if you think you want to be a cop, I've always wanted to be one. This is a physically taxing job. It's mentally taxing job. And I can tell you, once I turned 45, I felt the change. It was, things started changing. My eyesight started changing, started taking longer to recover. I was looking at some photos of me on the job a while ago. I'm like, man, I wish I was that fat when I thought I was fat. So since I've retired, Sadly, thanks PTSD and depression, I've put on a lot of weight, but that's my thing. And my wife and I are going to be working very hard on getting rid of some weight. So we're going to go through some lifestyle changes. But, that I think the age group that these people that started out in a career, and then decided they want to make a change. Because that's what I did. I started my full-time, I was a part-timer for 10 years. All right. Mm-hmm. And then realized, hey, I think I'm going to make a change. I want to go ahead and go full-time. And I should have listened to my wife 10 years prior to and went full-time. I could have retired. I would probably been around the same time, but, would have had a little more in the pension.
Yeah. And I want to give a really quick shout out because Logan Campbell, who's been on this show a couple of times, he is my personal trainer. He's been my personal trainer for a little over a month now, and major props to him. Him and I have been working remotely. He's my personal trainer, down over 30 pounds, and I feel
congratulations. Phenomenal. Yeah, keep the work up.
Yeah, buddy. I mean, he's absolutely amazing. He's great. He's very inspiring. So I wanted to throw that in there for those of you that are no longer in law enforcement. That's when it's hard to lose. Lose that weight, man. It is rough.
Well, I thought it was rough on the job, especially working midnights, is because you just don't have. There's the food ain't out there, and I never had the motivation to go hit the gym. Finally it would get to the point to where, dude, I got to get out. I got to get moving. It just didn't have that. I'm not the type of person that, has that 3 or 4 day regimented gym day. I always laughed at the younger guys that like would come into roll call with their big fucking 1 gallon, water jug. And they're like, what do you mean you can't work out when you wake up? Like on midnights, they would come in and roll call at 8 o'clock at night. And they're like, what do you mean you can't wake up at 3, 4 o'clock and go to the gym? And I'm like, because I'm not like you. I don't have no responsibility. I'm not living in a 1-bedroom apartment with no fucking kids. Like where I can do still home with my parents.
Yeah. I'm not in my parents' fucking basement. All right. I don't play fucking Call of Duty all night. Like,
right.
And it's definitely different. And it's always interesting because those are the same folks that when I became a sergeant, I supervised, and I watched them like get engaged. Then they got married. Then they popped out their first kid, and they fucking ballooned. They ballooned, and you're like, you want to be the guy to turn around and be like, I fucking told you so. But then you want to be, they're like, oh, I'm so tired all the fucking time, Sarge. I'm tired.
Welcome to the club, bro.
Yeah, it's not all fucking fun and games, buddy. It's great when you're single and. Like you have all that resilience at 23 to 28 years old. I ventured to say almost 30. But like once you adult and have responsibility, then it's like priorities. It's like, can I be at the gym for an hour and a half a day? Probably not.
No, you can't, because you got fucking kids to run around.
Yeah,
and then as they get older, you got sports and this, that, and the other. And I can tell you, I woke up one day and I'm like, holy shit, I'm in my 50s. What the fuck happened to my 40s? But
it goes fast,
well, it does. And, you have your head down and you're plowing and, you're just doing your thing. And next thing you know, shit, I'm 50 years old. Shit starts to hurt. Why doesn't my arm move this way anymore? Well, you need surgery. Or like me, you need your hips replaced. And
everything's falling apart now. Like,
yeah,
this, we were going to do episode 2 sooner, but I decided to go get 2 wisdom teeth pulled. And, man, I mean, this was a week ago today, and it still fucking hurts. It still fucking hurts.
No, I hate that. I hate that.
It's the worst, man. It's the worst. And then like I got my daughter a used car, and she needed brakes, so I went and I changed her brakes, and my back has been hurting every day since then. And that's with me fucking working out every day, bro. Like. I'm like, I can't stand up straight. I mean, it's just like you
look like Cro-Magnon man,
dude. It's fucking terrible, man. Like between the teeth and my back, I'm like, fuck me, man.
Wait a minute, is this roll call room or 2 old sergeants complaining?
Yeah, dude, it is. This is the geriatric episode. This is. Ladies and gentlemen, our sponsor today is Go-Kart. If you use code Roll Call Room, you get 20% off of your wheelchair. No, I'm just kidding. But I will say this. One thing that we forgot to say at the beginning of the episode is that we're super excited. We have a major sponsor and one that we didn't solicit, which is even better.
Yes, it's always better.
I know. I got the email.
Kind of laughing about what it is. I'm like, ooh.
I know. I'm teasing it up, man. I remember getting the email and I sent you a screenshot of it. And I was like, dude, I think this is fucking for real. And it was. And we're happy to say that we are sponsored by Manscaped. That's manscaped.com. And if you go to Manscaped and you use code Roll Call Room, you get 20% off. The folks at Manscaped sent Mark and I a care package, which we're going to do an unboxing on in the future. Just an absolutely beautiful box. And the funny thing was I was out with my family today at Target, and what do I come upon? There is a end cap of Manscaped now at Target. I wouldn't buy it from there because you don't get your 20% off.
Right.
But what was interesting is the kit that they sent us was there at Target. And I was like, wow, that looks really, I mean, this kit is nice. It's got like lotion in it. It's got a shaver. It's got nose and hair trimmer in there. It had a t-shirt in there. It had boxers in there. It had a carrying bag. Like when I go away for work, now I can carry all my shit in a bag instead of using a fucking Target bag like some fucking hobo.
Well, see, I'm a bigger hobo because I only use Walmart.
Oh, do you? Yeah. You know what I mean, man.
And it's an old Walmart bag that was blowing around the parking lot.
What's interesting is I go away quite often for work. So like I mostly stay at the Hilton because I get, reward.
Because you're bougie.
Because you're bougie.
Yeah, you're bougie.
When I open up my suitcase, in that fishnet fucking area, you know what I'm talking about. People who are listening, there's two sides to a fucking suitcase. When you open that shit, there's 15 bags of shit in there, like different Target bags, like shampoo in one bag, toothpaste and toothbrush. Man, being an adult just sucks, man. It just sucks. So saying that, we thank the folks at Manscaped and we encourage you to go on manscaped.com, code Roll Call Room, and get 20% off. It does help the show. So it keeps the show going, which is great. We got YouTube, Patreon. Patreon is really, really big. We're going to be making a big push for that. And then if you're watching this video, you could see this awesome shirt that I'm wearing. We have swag now. We have some merch on our website, rollcallroom.com. And
the coffee cups.
Roll Call Room mug.
Coffee cup, yep.
And what's cool, it's sublimation shirts, so it's not cheap piece of shit shirts. So go on there, go check those out. Again, all of that stuff, keeps the lap dances coming for Mark and I, and we appreciate it.
Well, you need to unwind somehow.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mrs. Mark, the cop. I'm sorry,
Sainted Susan.
Sainted Susan. I'm sorry, Susan. I'm such a bad influence. We're talking about ball shavers and lap dances. She's gonna be in the car listening to this, and she's gonna look at you. She's gonna be like, "What the fuck is wrong with that guy?" It's all for
show business.
Yeah, she's like, "What the fuck is wrong with that guy, Nick?" Like, he's just there's a lot wrong with me, Susan. A lot wrong with me.
Well, we aren't your average cop podcast either. We are the OG. I'm proud to say we. Thanks for inviting me along, but you are the OG of all. So.
Well, and I truly mean this, and we didn't get to talk on it with episode 1. I never really, when we started Roll Call Room, I never really went after other shows. I never did that, man. But I got to tell you now, 3 years into it, it's gotten to the point where I really start to look at other podcasts that are doing a disservice to this profession. And those of you that know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, which is you can't remain safe anymore. You can't walk that fine line anymore and turn a blind eye to all the shit that's going on in our profession. And I'm kind of, this is going to sound so bad, but you know what? I'm full transparency. I'm kind of getting tired of it. Like I look, when I first started RCR, you know, maybe I was naive. What I really saw was probably 10, 15 law enforcement podcasts. Now there's thousands of them. Thousands of them, man. I can't keep track of them. But there's one thing that's always repetitive, and it's the same thing, which is let's not talk about poor law enforcement leadership. No, let's not talk about law enforcement suicide. Nobody wants to hear that other shit. Like, and so I'll get off my soapbox in a minute, is that that's the reason for revamping the roll call room, is to get back to the core basics, and start talking about this stuff, and start talking about folks like the International Police Organization that we were talking about, which is that you've gone far, far too long with not being called out for your bullshit. And I don't have any stake in the game anymore, though. Like, I don't depend on them for a salary. So I could say what I want.
Well, but I can tell you, I can distinctly remember my first year at Washington, D.C., someone and going to the National Memorial, which is May 15th, by the way, for those of you who don't know or know what Police Week is. Police Week is the week of May 15th. It's very important. And I think every officer, if you're on the job, take the time to go sometime in your career. I'm going next year. We're going next year. We will be in Washington for Police Week. But the first time I went to the memorial and I saw a placard on the inner wall talking about police suicides. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. And I didn't realize at that time, my wife's like, you need to look into this, because she picked up one of their brochures when we got back to the hotel, because I remember it was early on, because we used to stay at Holiday Inn Capitol, and we don't stay there anymore. But so that's how I know when it was. But we started reading these statistics, and I was like, are you fucking shitting me? This is seriously alarming at how many police suicides there are. And so I started doing more research for me, and shame on me for being so naive, you know, that back in the day, he was cleaning his gun, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I can distinctly remember agencies covering as to what happened. You know what I mean? They were actual police suicides. What'd you do with it? I was listening to another podcast the other day, and they were talking about how, you know, we just had D-Day recently, and how those veterans, when they came home, they never talked about the war. And, you know, some of these veterans, you know, would wake up screaming at night, because that's all unresolved trauma. And that's before we really understood it. And then I started experiencing it myself. But holding people accountable, holding agencies accountable for not being toxic shits, and adding to these poor officers' stress, having a friendly, safe work environment, being officer first, not policy first. Quit being such a coward when you're sitting in your corner office. When you walk through and see your men, stop and say hello. You know, just simple leadership things. I don't want to hear about how great I am in a fucking email. You know, when are you going to stop and say, hey, how's your family doing? And I understand that big agencies, you know, get that. So it's that it's that division or that bureau commander or whatever else, you know, reach out and touch people. We're a people job. That's what this is. And I still think law enforcement's a great job. I just think there needs to be some tweaking. I also feel that we need to get serious about this. As long as we're having the numbers we're having, how quick did the numbers spike? Because I remember we were talking one time, we were in the single digits since the first of the year, and then suddenly it took off. So I don't have that statistic in front of me to be able to see how many officer suicides we've had so far this year. But any of them is still too many. And until we get down to like zero numbers, we still have work to do. This is a great job, but it's also a tough job.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, and it kind of brings up a couple of other things, which is, and this will be topics of conversation in future shows, is organizations that are supposed to be helping with educating or giving resources to officers for suicide, and that are taking government grant money, and doing nothing with it. So
I agree.
I guess this is the asterisk, which is this is the warning. Like, we're going to call you out. Like, it's coming. I'm just figuring out how to tactically do it. But it's coming. I'm going to be looking at your 501(c)(3) shit, and I'm going to blast you. I'm going to put you on blast on social media. I'm going to publicize what you're spending your money for, and it's coming. It is coming. I think they've been safe for so long. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, I think it's time to start calling, a whatever deck in the card you want to call it. A 5 of hearts, it's a 5 of hearts. But, until you have agencies, not agencies, but organizations, and I'm going to throw a shout out here if you don't mind. Our good friends at the Chip Terry Fund. The Chip Terry Fund is an organization, and they're helping the fireside. And they are actually making change, and they're actually working hard. If you go to the chipterryfund.org, it's a great a great fund. What am I trying to say? It's a good reason to go donate. There's a big donate button right there in the middle, and they're helping first responders every day. Those are the people that are serious about it. I would love to have Joe Terry on sometime for an interview. So Joe, if you're listening, clear your calendar. But what she's doing and how we're finding ourselves, and that organization is working every day to limit first responder suicides, because there's way too many, and it's more than a lot of people realize. The next thing is that, and I'm going to quote her by saying, there's 3 types of organizations out there. There's ones that do nothing. Doesn't happen. Never happen. There's ones that give it lip service, and then there's ones that are very serious about it. The worst one of those 3 are the lip service people, I feel.
Yep.
If you're just giving it lip service and you're not attacking it, go.
And I could think of 2 right offhand, but I'm gonna reserve that for a later time, because poker runs, poker runs and nice graphics to show how many law enforcement suicides don't prevent law enforcement suicides. And you know who I'm fucking talking about. I don't mean you, Mark, because I know that this organization is listening, because I saw you look on my fucking LinkedIn. So get ready. It's coming.
Here we go. Double barrel.
Yeah.
So I think that's what the teaser was, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, I'm fucking fired up. I saw that one come through on my LinkedIn, and I was like, oh, okay. You want to open up that Pandora's box from 3 years ago? Okay, here we go. Get ready. Because I'm going to air your fucking dirty laundry. It's coming. But you know what? Another time, another episode. We've got a lot more to go. We got a lot more seasons to go. Folks, there is so much. I highly encourage you to reach out to Mark and I for comments, show ideas. If you want to come on as a guest, if you have a story to tell or experience that you want to tell, Mark now has an official rollcallroom.com email address, and it's MARC at rollcallroom.com, not MARK.
That's our
MARC. And mine is Nick at rollcallroom.com. You can go on all of our social media now. If you go on the gram, as the kids call it, you can go on our link tree. It has all of our shit on there. Go to Patreon, pledge the lowest if you want, the $8 one. We got some cool stuff for the top tiers coming out. We also have posters now. We have posters that Mark and I are going to sign and send out. Every person that pledges the lowest one gets one of those. We have swag. We have all of this different stuff. Please get involved. Please like and share and spread the show. Like, that's how it got so popular. That's how it grew.
Well, it got big being outrageous, and to just throw that out there, because when I first started listening to your show, I was like, holy cow, I really connected with these guys. Because what better show to have than 2 cops telling it how it is? We can sit there and like we were talking about being safe. You can be safe all day long. We're not going to sit on here and talk about trigger pulls or this kind of training and that. That's not what we're about. What we're about is, number 1 problem is officer suicides. Number 2 is mental health. And, there is a balance there. And my mission is to try and bring some healing, keep you guys happy, healthy, and going out there and wanting to do the job every day.
My goal is to be the gasoline or kerosene to Mark's fire.
The napalm.
That's pretty much what my whole life is about, man. Just fucking torching the shit out of stuff. But I do it for you, folks. I do it for you. I will have some good stuff for episode 3 from my old agency. I'm waiting for this FOIA to come through. I can't wait. So I might have some good, juicy shit. So those of you that are at my old agency, hang on. I'm going to have some good shit for you real soon. I'm so excited about it. But with that, Mark, anything to tell the folks before we end for the episode?
Well, again, and this has been my message before. If you're going to work that 5 hours of overtime, take that 5 hours of comp time. It's a job, guys. Don't make it be who you are. Go in, do the best job you can do every day. Be honest, have lots of integrity, but don't let it encompass you. Remember, your family loves you, and you should love them back. Be there for them.
Yeah. What you said times 2. Again, folks, appreciate everything. Check out all of our social media and be safe.
Do you want to help the Roll Call Room podcast keep going? Of course you do. Join Patreon and pledge to the show each month. Tiers start at $5 and you could get some pretty cool shit with it, including swag and access to listen to episode clips early. So put that Starbucks coffee down and help my dad keep the show going. Don't be a fucking Steve. Go to rollcallroom.com to pledge today.